Hey everyone, Twisted here. Okay, so we already went through part one of this advanced series, and we're going to go with part two now. And basically what we're going to do in part two is we're going to start using filters and going with filters and manipulating this type of image. I know some people that like to just use adjustment layers. I, for one, I'm huge on filters because I learned my tools and know how to manipulate my image well with them. So first we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new group. And in this group we're going to call it base. We're going to take everything from our first part of this tutorial and we're going to put it in that base group. And we're going to create another group. And we're going to call it full image. And inside this group we're going to create a new layer, which is this piece of paper looking thing. And then we're going to go up here to image and we're going to apply. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask us, you know, the layer is merged, the channel is RGB, the blending is multiply, the opacity is 100. Now the blending mode doesn't really matter. It's not going to change anything because all we're doing is we're just applying that full, all of those previous layers, we're applying up to one layer. Now with this, we're going to go up here to our filters. And we are first going to click on and make sure that this layer is highlighted. Then we're going to go up to our filters and we're going to go to Nix software and Color Effects Pro. And it's going to bring up this panel. And I already have my favorites marked, and cross-processing and ink are the two of my favorites. Now we're going to find something that's going to make it look like it's blended. First we're going to wait for everything to catch up. I accidentally clicked cancel, so we're going back again. And cross-processing is where we're going to go, and we're going to start with cross-processing first. Wait for all of our pixels to come up on our preview screen. And then we're just going to go down the list, and you're going to find something that makes the image blend and not wash the model out into a particular color. So you just kind of go down your list and your preview screen will eventually catch up. Everything's running a little slow tonight because I'm also converting the last video. And I actually like this one, which would be on B4. So I'm going to check that one and I'm going to hit OK. And it's made everything look blue, including the model, which is fine because we're going to adjust that. We're going to create another new layer. And we're going to go ahead and apply image again. And again, the blending mode doesn't matter. We'll keep it on normal. And again, we're going to go into our filters and we're going to go to Lucius Art. And for me personally, I like to use my layer properties more than I like to try and make it blend with this. So I'm going to go onto the fourth bubble, keep everything on the default, hit this check mark, And as you can tell, it sharpened everything way too much. So we're just going to go to our opacity, and we're going to drop the opacity down within, you know, the high 30s, lower 40s. And then we're going to create another new layer. We're going to apply image. We're going to go to our filters again, and we're going to go to 0. We're going to hit on radiance, and again we're going to keep that at default. And again, we're going to lower the opacity down, and we're going to go into the low 30s, high 20s. Create another new layer and apply image. Now we're going to go up to our filters, and we're going to go to blur and Gaussian blur. We're going to leave the radius at 1.8 pixels. We're going to go and we're going to hit multiply on this layer properties, and again we're going to lower the opacity right down to high 20s, low 30s. Now lately I haven't been doing this, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to anyway, and we're going to go in and we're going to hit it with a little bit of topaz. Now, topaz is one of those filters that everybody is using. And yes, I mean everybody's using topaz. I think I know of maybe 1 or 2 people that don't, and that's like within, you know, within the MPS group. And even I stopped using topaz because it's overused and people refuse to mess with the adjustments on that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think that there are some instances that it actually does work out to the benefit of the graphic and what they're trying to go for. But in other instances, I personally think that it's overused. So it's really just a matter of what you decide. But for the sake of this tutorial, I am going to go with crisp style. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this fits screen. Wait for the processing to get done. And then I'm going to go ahead and mess with the strength. I'll leave it probably down about 1. And I'll go ahead and show you what this is doing to the image itself. Again, I'll let it finish processing. And as you can see, it's going to give us a bunch of lines around her face and her hair. So we're going to hit OK on this. But what we're going to do to fix some of the issues, because I do like some of the effects that it gave in the background, it did give it a little kind of this artsy feel. However, I don't like the fact that it's gone and done all of this to the face. It looks too, I call it like the Play-Doh effect, to be honest with you. Like when you were a kid and you played with Play-Doh and you got that kind of effect. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our eraser tool, and we're going to get a fairly small brush, something that will just go inside her face, and we're going to start erasing parts of that layer around her cleavage, her shoulder, around her arm. We don't want any of the skin affected by what topaz has done. So her hands, even parts of her belt. Okay. So now that we've done all of that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create another new layer. We're going to apply image. And then we're going to go, and what I have not covered in the beginner's tutorials is these two brushes right here. We have, under this one, we have our blur tool, our sharpen tool, and our smudge tool. And under this one, we have our dodge, our burn, and our sponge. Under here, we're going to grab our blur tool. First we're going to go ahead and we're going to zoom in on her some more. And then we're going to grab our blur tool. And then we're going to make a really small brush. And the reason why we're going to do this is because you see how pixelated she is? We're going to get rid of some of that pixelated look, and we're going to smooth her out. So take your time and go around her lips. Don't go over her lips, just go around it and around her nose, and just do like little small taps. Don't rub too hard, because then it'll blur too much, and we don't want to do that. We just want to kind of feather out her skin a little. The same around her shoulder. Any exposed piece of skin that looks really pixelated, just want to hit that with the blur tool. And now the reason why it looks so pixelated like that is because of our filters that we put in. So you're going to kind of have a little bit of extra work to get that smoothed little look. Kind of give her that like porcelain look. And now we do have a filter called porcelain, but it does a little too much of making it look sketched, and we don't want her to look too sketched. So we're going to go ahead and grab and start going around her arm. And even around her eyebrow, I did a little too much, but that's the reason why we duplicated the layer, because we can just go ahead and get a really small brush and just tap and bring her eyebrow back in. And even that was a little too much, because then we're showing it a little. So Control-Alt-Z is our go back. And then make the brush a little bit smaller and just tap along her eyebrow. And around her wings. And around her eye. Okay. So going back to our blur tool, and just kind of finish taking the pixels out of her skin. There we go. So now once we've done that, we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to apply image like we have before. And we're going to take our burn tool. And the reason why we're going to do that is we're going to make certain areas of her pop. So instead of, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to treat it like any other paintbrush, and you're going to want to just click and hold and start rubbing. Don't rub. Just take it and just tap. And tap around her makeup and inside her eye. And then maybe her lips a little bit too. Okay. And any parts that you want it to like really pop, just go ahead and just tap those too, because this is going to take and manipulate the shadows. And then next we are going to take our dodge tool, and with this one we're going to make sure the range is on midtones and the exposure is at 39. And again, we're just going to tap, and we're going to bring out some of the brightness parts of her. And even along her hair a little bit, make that kind of shine. Any parts that you really want to make her pop, just tap your your dodge tool. Any parts that you see that should be a little bit brighter due to light. The shine around her pants. And even the white in her belt. Alright. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. See, that's starting to give us the effect that we're looking for. Next, I'm partial to lowering the saturation, but not with like my levels and my curves. I go to my solid color and I get a gray, just a light color gray, and that looks good. And we're going to go ahead and lower the opacity right down like we have been doing. Oh, I'm sorry. First we're going to go to screen. And then we're going to lower the opacity right down. And probably within the 20s range is about the best. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to duplicate that layer. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this Color Burn. We'll name this Screen. And Color Burn, we're going to do exactly what I named the layer, and we're going to go to Color Burn, which is going to bring some of that darkness back in. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to duplicate our screen layer, and we're going to go and put that right on top. And then we're going to lower the opacity just a little bit more. Okay. So that is part 2 of our advanced tutorials, where I showed you the filters and I showed you some adjustment layers with the blending options. I showed you what the dodge burn and sponge tool are. The sponge usually helps remove some of the burn. I showed you what the blur tool was. I rarely ever use the smudge tool unless there's a like a tattoo or a blemish on her, and I'll just kind of rub that out. My next tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit more blending options and the texting, so stay tuned for that.